Hello, everybody. Welcome to Watches with Dennis. And here is the typical Saturday live stream. Got a couple of new releases that I want to go over, and then the news that I actually just saw yesterday. I'm not quite sure when it dropped, but regarding that the Richemont group is going to go ahead and actually they've already struck a deal to sell Baume Mercier to an Italian jewelry conglomerate company, something along those lines. So I figured we could end with that as a sort of discussion item. I guess it was actually back on January. Yeah, just yesterday, the 23rd, looking at the date of the Hodinkee article, which we will jump to, but only after we cover a couple of new releases from Omega and Tag. So anyway, on the wrist today for me is H. Moser Pioneer Center Seconds. This is the funky blue dial, largest watch that I own, actually, in terms of lug to lug and probably diameter for that matter. And this specifically is the reference 3200-1205. I am hoodified today. It is very cold. The snow has finally started to fall. And so this room is at the, I think I mentioned this last time, this room is at the end of the HVAC chain. So my room, even though it's upstairs, tends to get very cold where I do these videos. So anyway, unless I want to make the rest of the house too hot. But that is it in terms of housekeeping. I actually, I haven't had any new videos since the last live stream on this channel. However, I was on Casual Watch Reviews last Sunday, had a conversation about watches, thinking about purchasing in 2026. So I don't have a link ready for you. You can just search if you happen to care and want to hear what that small panel discussed during that. Good morning, Patrick. Welcome to the live stream. Have not yet watched your video about the Christopher Ward Studio Underdog pocket watch, but I saw that it is out. I just haven't been able to get to it yet. And I think that is all we have in terms of chat right now. So let me go ahead and kick us over to article links are as usual in the video description. But I'm going to go ahead and start with the Hodinkee article here. We're not going to read it. We never do that. We're not going to read it out loud. This is their intellectual property. I am giving them their linked credit, and we're here just to have some visual imagery so that you can understand what I'm talking about. But they have a new 300M. Anyone who's familiar with Omega is familiar with the 300M, and so you're familiar with this general case design. But this is the Seamaster Diver 300M Milano Cortina 2026. So this is celebrating the new, or I shouldn't say the new, the upcoming 2026 Winter Olympic Games, which are taking place in Milano Cortina. Of course, Omega is the official timekeeper of the Olympics. They love to tell that to you, only slightly less than they love to tell you about the relationship with James Bond, and significantly less, of course, than how often they love to tell you about the moon. This is actually a big version of this watch. It's 43.5 millimeters in diameter. Lug to lug is 51.5 millimeters. So I could pull this off. It's kind of like the Moser that I'm currently wearing. It's a close thing. This is not for smaller wrists. So those of you who have been longing for even bigger watches, enjoy. Thickness is right on the edge of what I would call thick. It's 14.37 millimeters. For me, 15 millimeters is the dividing demarcation where a watch is officially thick. It's driven by the coaxial 8806. This is a 3.5 hertz movement, as all, I believe, of the coaxials that Omega has are. 55 hours power reserve, and the price in US dollars is $10,500. Now, I didn't mention the material. You could probably tell. I'm hoping I'll zoom in even more for you. You probably, again, ceramic inserts in watches is not unusual. However, this is a mix. So this has got white ceramic, not just in the bezel insert, but the case itself is white ceramic, but it is contrasted as well with a mix of grade 5 titanium. So you could see that the helium escape valve is grade 5 titanium. You can see titanium is used over here on the crown. We probably have a better photo from Hodinkee that we'll jump to for that. And also the actual ring of the bezel is titanium. So you can see that they've done a frosting texture here. They've also kind of got a frosted texture look to the dial itself. They have the Milano Cortina 2026 emblem in there, and then it looks like they've done kind of a blue effect on the seconds hand at least. So, and not to mention the printed markings to represent the sort of the chapter ring area of the watch. Here's a better shot, I think, of being able to see like the color the use of the blue against the white. Relatively legible watch, I would say overall. Though I do think the hour and minute hands may get lost a little bit in the mix with this much white. It could just be these renders. Closed case back, which is typical for a lot of the special edition versions from Omega. Perfectly, I don't really think much about case backs. It's perfectly handsome case back. So, okay, overall thoughts. I mean, the main thing that sort of has stood out to me, which I do like about this watch, is usually the 300M has a date window, and they've gone ahead and not included one here. So it's very symmetrically balanced, which I think is going to be appreciated by a lot of people. But I believe there are other options for you to get that now. I don't know if they're this big though. So if you wanted a larger version, this might be the way to go. Obviously, 51.5 millimeters lug to lug, significant wrist presence. Lug width on this model, by the way, is 21 millimeters. And so it's got a pretty clean look. This is, while it's an Olympic edition, it's not limited. It's not a limited run. So whether or not they time limit it, kind of like what they did with that CK steel watch that came out too, modest fanfare, but I don't think it sold very well until they discontinued it later in the year. Maybe something like that. I struggle to think they're going to produce this long after the Olympics are over, but it's Omega. Who knows really what they're going to go ahead and do. Pretty good. I will say they've done a nice job staying true to the winter motif. The entire watch, all the way to the rubber strap that it comes with, definitely feels like a celebration of winter. Kind of like the sort of some of those dark side of the moons. I don't know if a lot of people are going to like just there's contrast here, so I don't want to exaggerate it, but polished silver hands. I'm assuming the standard polished, maybe rhodium plated hands. Is it too hard to read? I'm going to say no, but it's harder than other watches you can get from Omega. That might be a bit of a struggle for it. Also, I've found, generally speaking, when it comes to a white dial versus a dark dial, people tend to, in general, prefer a dark dial. No, it doesn't fit the winter theme, so I'm not saying they should do this differently. I'm just saying that I think it will be a more modest success, if it is a success at all, given that it's not all black. It's not black and titanium, black ceramic and dark titanium. It is white. And outside of like the Rolex Explorer 2 in Polar, which is seen as preferable by a lot of people to the black, I don't know in any other instance where the white dial version is preferred. But your mileage may vary. So anyway, it looks decent enough. 10,500. Again, it gets weird, right? Because it's got steel, but it's got titanium and it's got ceramic. This is not out of bounds for, like, if you were to look at a MSRP for a Blancpain Bathyscaphe, which is their smaller 50 fathoms version in all ceramic, its MSRP would be higher than this. It's also got better finishing on the movement and such. You can't even see the movement here, but we most of us should know by now what the coaxial finishing is like, which is, it's decent, but it's not amazing. I'm going to say it's okay. Obviously, you can get a lot of steel 300Ms retail for significantly less than this. I'm not sure. I think overall, while it looks decent, I don't think a lot of people are going to buy it when push comes to shove. But it really depends on how much you really like this white. If you get into, like, if this frosted look is really appealing to you, there's not a lot that I can think of that's out there for you. So this might be decent. And I think that it's not over the top with the Olympic branding. Yeah, you've got these, like, the little Z symbol thing. It's better to, you can tell more on the case back like this. They've incorporated that into the dial, but it's very subtle. Very subtle. So again, if you're someone who might like the look of some certain thematic watches, but you get annoyed when it's really overt, like Black Panther is on the dial itself, this is walking a line here. I think it's subtle enough that most people wouldn't be bothered. But overall, I would say it's all right. It's definitely not remotely near the top of my list of favorite Seamasters, but nothing about it really bugs me either. So I think it's okay. A lot of words to say, I think it's okay. What does the chat say? I have no idea. So let's look. Restful Ignorance, welcome to the live stream, says gorgeous. So he really likes this. He likes that it's not Olympic branded. It kind of is, but it, again, very, very subtle. The dial, just a touch, just a hint. And this, I think this logo motif is the extent of the branding on the dial. Now, the back obviously does have full-on Olympic branding, but again, it's the back of the watch. Nobody's going to notice that except you. Patrick with Pocket Watch Time says, nice looking. I wish they'd make a standard non-Olympic version. So you think, like, I mean, what would, I guess I would ask as a counter to that. And I forgot I switched back to my giant head instead of letting you see where. So here's the Olympic branding on the back. And then the front is really just this. If you can see my mouth, we'll zoom in. It's this stark white part against the kind of almost meteorite. I'm sure it's trying to be ice or snow effect to the rest of it. Is that the part you would change, Patrick? Because the back is the back. Nobody cares, right? Unless you really wanted to display case back for some reason. But it's subtle. Would I prefer the uniformity of this, like just being flat out snow looking, kind of like what we would get out of Grand Seiko? Yeah. But maybe in that instance, you should just get a snowflake and be done with it. Like, this feels like it's a watch that would appeal to people that might want the snowflake, but they don't like spring drive. They don't like they don't like the bulkiness of Grand Seiko, but this isn't getting around that at all. Or want something with more exotic materials, because generally speaking, Grand Seiko plays in two spaces, titanium and steel, and they may have some stuff with ceramic casing. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I'm also not a Grand Seiko catalog expert, so it may be there. I am not sure. Oscar, welcome, by the way. Good morning to you. Patrick follows up with just white ice with exhibition case back. Okay. Having owned a 300M with the exhibition case back, and the rotor is so big, I really have no strong feel. The only thing I really point out is that when people compare Tudor to Omega, like, I actively don't want a display case back on a Tudor because they don't decorate their movements at all. Whereas Omega at least does. But I like for a long time, my most of my collection was actually closed case back. But so I won't say I have a bias towards it. It's just I'm generally very cool with it, unless we're talking some like anglage and some serious finishing. Then I like the display case back. But that's just me. Al, welcome to the live stream, and thank you for being a 99 Club member. Al says, points for no date dial. That's probably my favorite aspect. I'm glad that they're finally doing a lot more with no date. To be fair, because if I am nothing, I am fair, or most of the time. Generally speaking, on the 300M, always in the modern iteration that I am aware of, the date is at the 6 o'clock position. So while we could argue that this has more symmetry, and I think that's fair enough, though you could say, well, but the top has got double baton. It's only a single baton at the bottom. That's not actually true symmetry. Why isn't it just a baton on each spot? A single baton only. Granted, this is a standard thing watch companies do. It was always really well balanced, even if you didn't feel like it was perfectly symmetrical. That being said, I like no date on dive watches. I just think it's more attractive. So in this instance, I agree with Al. I'm glad that they did it. It's probably my favorite thing. Though I will say, I do think that the white ceramic, I think we could get a better angle here from the Hodinkee photos. I do think the white ceramic of the case, contrasting against the titanium crowns, looks pretty good. I do like that. I'm not totally sold on this super frosted insert of the bezel. Completely fits the snow theme. So there is that. They don't have a shot of the loom, so I can't show you like how that bezel might look. My guess is there's no loom except in the pip. So because it doesn't look like it's that 3D printed style or ceramic block style, kind of like what Christopher Ward has done on some of their watches and such. Dante, or Donters, I like to say Donters. Donters, welcome to the live stream. Super durable titanium and brittle ceramic seems like a strange combination. I suppose we're supposed to believe the ceramic is also very durable. Yeah, well, I don't work for Omega, but if I were to channel my inner Omega, I would say, yes, you're supposed to believe that all of their watches are very durable. Is it a problem? I don't know. It is a little weird that, titanium is renowned for its scratching, though I think, actually, I can't comment if grade 5 is seen as the better scratch one or if it's the purer grade 2 that's seen as. I had a grade 2 titanium and it scratched quick. It was an Oris. And then I've got another one, which I'm sure is grade 2, but it's coated with the Duratec because it's Citizen. So that one has been much more scratch resistant. Obviously, ceramic is renowned for its scratch resistant properties. I have not heard, granted, this is a very small channel and there are only a few of you who watch. I have not had anyone tell me they have damaged their ceramic Omega. I have had people tell me that has happened with their Rados. But I don't know if that's just because Omega ceramic is so much more expensive than getting in on like a full ceramic Rado that it just, statistically speaking, I'm going to meet more people who've owned ceramic and Rado because it was more approachable as a price. So I don't know. But it is an interesting blend. I don't think in summary response to Daunters, I don't think they did that analysis at all. I think they just like the contrast of the gray and the white, which does fit the snow theme. So I think that was the motivator. It's all about being pretty. All right. So they wanted it to be pretty. And the analysis of, well, this metal versus this material, what does that mean? I think they're just like, let's do it. We got to celebrate the Olympics, guys. We got to. It's our one thing besides James Bond and the moon. Kevin, welcome to the live stream. Hope things are going well for you. Oscar likes this Omega, like Patrick, thinks it looks pretty cool. And Donter said, I just watched your State of the Collection yesterday to Patrick with Pocket Watch Time. Pretty epic. I saw that one maybe a couple weeks ago. Very epic. Yeah, he has a lot of watches. I think the interesting thing that watching Patrick's collection that makes me kind of wish I collected differently, only kind of, because otherwise I would just flat out do it, is the different materials that he's played with in terms of owning various watches. I have been tempted. I don't know the space very well. And then there's just not a lot. I mean, there aren't like we say like tantalum, for example. I'm like, I've done a couple looks where I'm like, can I find a tantalum watch that I want? And I've not gotten there yet, but I do think it's really interesting to have a bunch of watches with different materials. But my experimentation with that has been pretty limited. I've had bronze. I've not had a ceramic watch. I've had steel. I've had titanium. I've had gold. But I haven't had tantalum. I haven't had really any other metal than I just named. So very, very, it's a very interesting approach. And I do think it's really cool when you see it up close. You can start to see the differences in the metal, like the differences in the shades and hearing about the tooling challenges. Anyway, I'm rambling, but it is very interesting. Very interesting space, just not one I've been willing to go into myself at this time. So let's see. Matthew says the Cortina is an acquired taste. The actual town is nice, though. Well, it's good to hear that the town is good. John, hey, welcome. Hope things. 75 in Miami. You're seeing I'm wearing my Syracuse hoodie because I live in Kansas, but I went to KU, but my grad school was Syracuse, and the snow today is not like what we would get on the regular when I was in Syracuse, but I haven't, like yesterday, the wind chill. It was minus 20 Fahrenheit. I don't remember the last time I experienced a minus 20 wind chill. The last time I experienced minus 20 temperature was in Alaska in February, but this is not Alaska. This is Kansas. So very, very different. But I'm glad things are nice and warm for you in Miami. I've been to Florida 3 times, but I've never been to Miami. Oscar says it's getting very cold next week in Florida. It's like everyone lives in Florida except me. It feels like I guess Florida's kind of like a watch capital, right? That's what it feels like to me. Sort of like how in the world of pinball, Seattle, and Washington State as a whole, but really driven by Seattle and Portland and Oregon, they're like per capita the biggest pinball places in the world. Just a huge collection of enthusiasts that exist in those spaces. Okay, so broadly speaking, we like decent amounts, it sounds like, of that Omega Seamaster 300M to celebrate the Olympics. So let's jump to another watch, the second new one I wanted to talk about today, and that is Tag. I've never owned Tag. This is a Tag Heuer Carrera Seafarer, a new version, new colorway. And the colorway caught my eye because I thought this actually looks really good. If you kind of like that vintage aesthetic. So let me go ahead and give you some let me find you a closer photo of this. Again, link in the video description if you want to go and actually read the articles. But in terms of this is I don't know what the reference number is. Yeah, you figure it out if you want to learn the reference. I'm sure it's in the article. But 42 millimeter in diameter. This is obviously a chronograph. Lug to lug is only 48.6 millimeters. So really small wrists probably won't like this, but I think most wrists will be able to pull it off. I'm not sure of the lug to lug on this lineup. I'm going to guess it's probably 22, maybe 21. Thickness is actually thinner than the 300. No, I apologize. It's not. It's almost identical to the 300M we just talked about. It's 14.4 millimeters in thickness. That 300M we just looked at, this one, if you didn't, if you just tuned in, was 14.37. So this is 0.3 of a millimeter thicker, but it does actually have a chronograph, which does explain a lot of that. Speaking of that, the chronograph itself is the caliber TH20-13. That is an automatic movement, 4 hertz, 80 hours of power reserve. And I think the pricing on this is around, I don't know, they said in this article, I think it's around 8,800 US. I'm scrolling because I had, yes. Oh, it did say it in the article. Good. Usually they do. All right. 8,800 US. This is not a watch that I would probably ever own myself because, as I just mentioned, I'm in a landlocked state. So what is a tide indicator going to do for me other than tell me about how far away from the ocean I am? But I like the whole look of it is, I think, really cool. So I've got a button for you to manually, here on the 9 o'clock position, basically, to go ahead and manually set your, I guess you look up a tidal chart and you're able to set that. And then you're able to see when high and low tide is going to happen. So that's how that's manipulated. And then your typical chronograph controls are over on the 3 o'clock side of the watch, like you would expect to be able to time things and all of that. I've heard a little bit about how, surfers and stuff sometimes will wear watches along these lines to be able to measure the sort of thing. I don't know if you'd wear this watch surfing. It does have 100 meters of water resistance, which is decently robust for a chronograph in particular. Date at the 6 o'clock position. Obviously, you've got your running seconds at the 6 o'clock position. You've got your whole tidal thing going on at the 9 subdial, and then you've got your chrono minutes over at the 3 o'clock subdial, and then running chrono. The typical chronograph approach, one might say. This was the first watch I planned to talk about this week, simply because I liked vintage. Is so it's tough. It's a very interesting thing to me because there are a lot of people who are very frustrated with watch, like the watch industry right now, because they lean on the vintage catalog so much. And I sympathize with it because it's like you do like the idea, at least I do, of the industry pushing itself forward and doing really exciting things. But then when I see something like this, which honestly, in my opinion, looks so good, it's like this is like it done right. So you have these gold toned hour markers, right? We don't have the Fotina look. It just looks like, hey, we'll just have, it's polished. Let's have polished gold instead of that dark browny Fotina. Do they have Fotina? I'd say yes. These pips at them for the loom look like Fotina spots, but I don't think, because it's not the predominant portion of the hour marker, that anyone's going to be like, oh my God, there's so much Fotina. I can't stand this. Not to mention, it complements really well with this very nice sort of aged cream look, but it's super uniform. So it doesn't, to me, feel like they're trying to make it look like the dial looks old. To me, it was like, no, we want the dial to look cream. So that's what they did. The color balance, with these really light blues, on the 3 o'clock subdial, on the 9 o'clock subdial, but also you can see, hopefully with this image, inside the hour and minute hands. That really like Easter egg pastel blue, not a color I normally would gravitate to in a watch, but against this cream backdrop and all this gilt, looks really nice. Just like this orange for the tidal indicator looks really nice. It all complements really well. This color play is something I would have expected out of Zenith, which I think does a very good job on mixing a multitude of colors on their chronograph watches. But this, I really like this. This looks really cool. And I'm not into chronographs. I only own one. But like aesthetically, I think it looks really, really cool. I like it on the bracelet. I like the bracelet type that they've gone with. So they've been doing stuff with the Wayfarer line lately, right? I think they had another release. I can't remember if we talked about it. I feel like we did, maybe a year or two ago, but I like this one more. Whatever the other one was, I don't remember. I like this one more. This is, it's been a while since I've been inside a place that sells tag, but I might actually ask to look at this. Now, interestingly, all of that, this $8,800, not cheap, but not expensive, 8,800 US. The Zenith Chronomaster original, I don't even remember what it retails for now. It launched at 9. I think it's at least 10 now when I look. Now, you can get those gray much less. That's how I bought mine. That's my one chronograph. Is a Zenith Chronomaster original. I probably should have worn that today in honor of this, but it's a tenuous connection at best. But so pricing wise, I think it's very competitive. We just got done talking about a 300-meter dive watch, which was 10,500, and I just think this I like this a lot better than the Omega we talked about. Very, very different watches, but generally speaking, the 300M is one of my favorite looking Omegas. Again, I've never owned a tag. I very rarely look at the chronograph line when I look at tags, but I think they did a really good job with this aesthetically. And I think it's reasonably robust. So I don't know what I would critique. Maybe it looks like the date disc, maybe just a plain white date disc. I would say if they had cream color matched that, it might be a little bit better. But against this sort of pebbling texture you see at the distance here of this image, I think it's well seated. It's balanced at the 6. You have other portions of the watch, like the let's get back to the edge here. It's a little different, but you have white over here on the I know I saw white elsewhere on the watch. You have white over here on the tidal indicator. So I think it's okay. Maybe that'd be the one thing I would change. I'd love it without a date, but they incorporated it decently. I think it's really good looking. I want to say it's a good deal, but I don't think this is limited to my knowledge, but I'm not sure. Let me see if the article said, because I sure didn't pull out or have AI pull out that detail. I let AI take the stats and make them into a notepad file so that I can save time, especially with a blog to watch, because you have to scroll forever to find everything you want to know about the particular movements and model specs, because they don't put them in a box for whatever reason. I don't know why they don't do that. But no, I'm not seeing anything here about this being said to be limited. Nope. Instead of being limited, it will be joining the collection as a standard production model. Okay, excellent. So I like it. This the two watches, this is easily my favorite of the day, but let's see what you guys think now that I'm looking back at what the chat is saying. All right. Let us start with, we had a question actually from Oscar. Question: would Omega produce watches in gold or silver anytime, just like Tudor and Rolex? They do, actually, Oscar. They if you look at the Speedmaster line, they almost, I think they've got a couple of things. Actually, now I'm tempted. Let me go to Omega's website. Accept all the cookies. Oh, look, they've already got the snow. I should have just gone right to their website. You could have watched it moving around. Isn't this fun? So yes, but they do silver. No, I don't think they do silver, and I don't expect them to. I don't think silver's catching on. The only thing exciting about silver to most people right now is that the price of silver happened to go and set a new record. As a material, because it tarnishes, patinas, however you want to think of it, it's very niche. Bronze plays in that space. Bronze watches had their, they were a fad. They had their time. There are some brands that continue to play with it, but here's a gold one already. But I wanted to see if I could filter by case material to show you. Not sure that I can. Movement, dial, features, strap material. Maybe if I do strap material. Now, this isn't going to show you all the gold ones. This is going to show you the ones with gold in them, in the bracelets. But DeVille line has done gold before, probably still does. You could see Speedmaster. I see these all over. Like, if you want one used, check like European Watch Company, 1916 Company, those sort of bigger used dealers. You can almost always find some like gold Omega there. Obviously, some of this is two-tone stuff. I don't count bronze gold. I think this watch looks great, but it's not real. It is real gold, but it's not enough gold to call it a gold watch. Let me put it like that. So yeah, obviously a lot of the ladies models are like that, but there are models for men. You can see there are a number of Aquaterras that are in gold as well. And again, I'm just showing you the ones with gold bracelets or gold in the bracelets, because that was the filter I saw available. But yes, Omega does gold, actually quite a lot of it. It's just as expensive. And so, when people are thinking gold with a gold bracelet watch, they typically gravitate towards Rolex for obvious reasons, because it's the famous one. It holds up on resale well, all the rest of it. All right, back to this watch, the tag. Wristful says, I like this tag. I like this tag too. Oscar agrees, likes this tag. John agrees. The best tag. Oh, no, John doesn't agree. He says that the best tag is a Monaco. That's an interesting. All right. I have to be cautious because I've not actually tried on a Monaco. I've gone and looked at them, but I've not actually asked them to pull them out and try them on. To me, the Monaco is the iconic tag, or the iconic Heuer, which now as Tag Heuer is the iconic Tag Heuer. The problem that I know from others who have tried to get into the Monaco is it seems to be very situational because despite being a square watch in a world which isn't dominated by square watches, but we have plenty of them that are talked about, namely the Santos, but there are others that the Monaco doesn't wear well for a lot of people. And it's interesting because there's two watches that I've always heard a high percentage of people cannot wear comfortably. One is the Monaco, and the other is the Bulgari Octa Finissimo, especially the thinner ones. Those always stand out to me with a number of comments who go, I love this watch. I owned one. I sold it in a month. I can't wear it. It doesn't feel right. So that's the problem I've always had with the Monaco. Well, that's the problem I've heard people have with the Monaco. I quite bluntly do not like how the Monaco looks. It is iconic, but it is not an icon that I in any way gravitate towards. It just doesn't appeal to me. The shape, and I like squares, but that shape, something about it bothers me visually, and I can't get into it. So that's why I've never tried one on. I've not met a Monaco I want to try on yet. So, but I definitely know a lot of people. If you ask them what tag do you know, Monaco's the one they name. So I agree that I will agree as far as it's definitely their icon in the catalog. But they've also really tried to get the Carrera up there. And they seem to be playing around more with the Carrera lately. That might change now that they're on their seventh? No, they have to find now, I guess, their eighth CEO. They've been through like 7 and 12 years. I don't know what's going on with Tag. It's a weird place. But I thought they've been doing pretty, like the glass box Carrera and all that. I felt like they've been, I won't say doing great. Let me rephrase it. I feel like Tag has figured out how to appeal to enthusiasts. Like they were kind of seen as that, oh, this is the brand they advertise all the time. People who want to get a luxury watch and don't buy a Rolex, buy a Tag. And that's like, it was for plebes. I don't know how else to put it. Like it was for non-enthusiasts. It was a mainstream luxury name, and it didn't have a lot of enthusiast cred. And it seems like now they are building up the enthusiast cred, which is probably smart for them because it's a difficult market to get into now for those that want to only like appeal to a person who's only going to ever buy one watch. So I think companies focusing on enthusiasts is smart from a business decision. But anyway, neither here nor there, I suppose. But thanks. It made me think about some stuff. Al says the tide indicator seems like a fun little complication, and the turquoise loom in the hands is cool. Donter says, I seriously consider the Monaco, but it's too big for me. I don't know. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about. I don't remember what standard sizes are, but yeah, that's a risk with squares in general. Like, I like some of the Bell and Ross squares, some of the more dressy looking ones. Like there's a I can't remember the reference numbers. The BR03 might be it. That I think actually looks really good in two-tone, but it is a 40 millimeter square, and I'm like, 40 millimeters as a square, so it's not going to overhang. It's going to feel like it's going to look like a lot of watch on my wrist because my wrist is 6 3/4 inches. I have to be realistic. That's why like the Vacheron 1921, I like the 36.5. I tried that on. Vacheron may have launched that thinking that it'd be the model size that would appeal more to women, but compared to the 40, it's like its presence is better in square form for me, smaller. But I don't know enough about Monacos to know how many different sizes they might make with them. Oscar says, wonder how they would light up. In terms of the loom, yeah, again, sadly, we could see there's not a loom shot provided in this piece, just like we didn't have a loom shot from Omega on the Hodinkee article. Ristral says, let's be honest, none of us buy complications for the specified use. That is fair. At least I don't. I actually, a couple of years ago, I temporarily listed it, my Zenith original, because I kind of felt bad because I would wear it, but I don't time anything. I used to have a Citizen chronograph. I don't know what happened to it. I used to have a Citizen chronograph though, and I used it. I used it when I would work on projects, and I would time to write down in my time log how long I had been working on that. I had to, budget my hours basically. So I would use the chronograph to time that. And then I went without a chronograph for like 20 years almost. And then I get another one and I'm like, I just like write down start stop times or whatever. I just don't use the chronograph. So I was kind of like, maybe I should sell this. I'm not actually using it for its intended purpose. And I listed it. Of course, it didn't go anywhere because it's a Zenith and they take a bath on the secondhand market. But then I was like, this watch wears really well. I guess I don't really have to use the chronograph. But I still was sort of like, I try and make sure I run it at least when I wear it. I try and run the chronograph once or twice when I wear it just to make sure that the lubrications get spread around and stuff. But I don't know. I was probably overthinking it like I do a lot of things. Let's see. Oscar says, I just like complications because they look nice. John adds some more information about Monaco. My Monaco is 39. Perfect fit for my 6.5-inch wrist. Okay, so I'm assuming they do come in different sizes, but I don't know. 39, again, well, different brands do them differently. So, depends on like overall if there's additional lug stuff, which the Vacheron, for example, has lugs on top of the 40. So it really adds some length to it. So again, not all 40s are created equal. I've heard some people say that the 45 cubitus actually wears a lot better than you would think, despite the 45 millimeter square, measurement on the 10, so to speak. Al said, I also like the bracelet. Looks vintage and thin. Does the site mention taper? Let us see if they do. I don't recall it mentioning taper, but I'm reading backwards and skimming, which is, of course, all right. So 22 millimeter lug width. I wasn't sure if it's 21 or 22. I'd guess 22. And I do not see it. Let me see if I can do a different search. Tag, what is it called? Seamat. What is it? What was it called? Seafarer. I should know these things. Seafarer bracelet. I don't know if anyone's gotten hands-on on it, so I would like to know. Let's see if maybe Tag's site will tell us. I can share that now that I've found it. Out of stock online. What? It already sold out? Come on, guys. Strap bracelet. Steel. Fine brushed and polished. Okay. I don't know. Sorry. Daunters says he has the same wrist size as John, but that the 39 millimeter didn't fit. Didn't like it on his wrist. Remember, though, it's not just size of wrist. Wrist shape matters for how a watch will sit for you. Like it might end up not staying centered on you, and you might like that, or you might hate it. Those sort of things also can come into play. So let's see. The Wristful says to Oscar, looks like Ben 10 has influenced you on precious metals. And Dantes goes, the Carrera color scheme definitely matches beach house aesthetic, in my opinion. I have to buy a beach house first. Baby steps, always baby steps. And so let us see. We're going ahead, and I think we will jump to the final topic. But feel free to continue discussing those particular models if you wish. So this one's a little weird. We're not going to talk about a new watch. I wanted to talk about, and especially with the live chat, if you're not watching live, leave comments and I'll go and read those regarding your thoughts on this. But I'm very curious because we're going to talk about a brand I don't really understand and a decision that I think I might understand, but I'm not completely positive. And that is this news from yesterday that Richemont Group has decided to sell off Baume Mercier. So again, this article's Hodinky. I do have, I guess what should I show you? I guess I could show you. Should I show you a picture? Again, I want you to have an article so you could be able to go and read about it. But okay, here's an example. I think this is a very prototypical Baume Mercier looking watch. I actually have their site loaded up, so we'll be jumping to that in a moment. But let me go ahead and give you a quick summary. So Italy's Damiani Group, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Damiani Group, which is based in Italy, they have purchased Baume Mercier from Richemont. So Richemont's divested themselves from B&M. The deal is in process. My understanding is this is supposed to close out sometime later this year. We don't know what the financial terms are. Richemont has indicated that they will be providing operational support for 12 months, at least 12 months after the closing of the deal. So it's not going to be a full-on clean break sort of thing. They are actually going to continue to support the brand while, I guess, D- Damiani group gets up to speed with it. But it's interesting because Baume Mercier has been under Richemont since I think 1988. So they've had them for a long time. And Baume Mercier is actually it's a legacy brand. Like that brand existed before Richemont. It's been around for quite a while. It's one of those major, and I guess we could use, I'm going to air quote a bit, major Swiss luxury brands. So in terms of some of the things, why would Baume Mercier get sold by Richemont? I think this, I don't know whether, oh yeah, I'm sure Zenith came up in the discussion. I saw there was also a rumor going around that is it LVMH that owns Zenith, that they were thinking about selling Zenith, and Zenith has come out and strongly denied that rumor that they're being shopped to be sold. But regardless, I think it's this idea fundamentally that it's Baume Mercier's got to be underperforming for Richemont, right? I mean, so what are the other things that Richemont has? They have Vacheron, they have JLC. I know because I always make fun of how much they've raised the price of the Reverso. IWC is Richemont, and then the big dog is Cartier, which of course is big in jewelry, but they're also second only to Rolex in the Swiss watch industry in terms of watch profit, or I should say gross profit or revenue. Baume Mercier operates at the lower end of that spectrum, right? So, I mean, Cartier has some watches that are priced around Baume Mercier. JLC and Vacheron are quite a bit higher. I'd say most of IWC is, but again, it kind of depends conceptually where you might think of it. But so if Baume Mercier is, and I don't love this term, but if they're kind of entry level luxury, and by entry level, I don't mean a person's first luxury watch. I mean like kind of the entry dollar point where we start calling watches luxury. There's some pretty stiff competition. One extract I saw said like a lot of the Baume Mercier watches are kind of in the $1,500 to $4,000 price point. Well, what else is operating with watches that are available around that price point? Tudor has some, especially when you start factoring in used watches. Obviously, you're going to really broaden that price point. Longines. Like Longines is a competitor to Baume Mercier. In fact, the Baume Mercier might have an average catalog price of higher than a Longines, but Longines has definitely got a lot more enthusiast excitement. So I think that's one piece. I think that's probably the strongest thing is that this group, their margins are going to be lower because the dollar amounts are lower. We've seen all of these big watch brands, even the smaller watch brands. The strategy has been we got to sell fewer watches to more rich people. We sell more expensive. It's not a volume game, it's a dollar game. So it seems like most of these brands, their strategy is, I mean, they'd love to sell more watches at higher price points, but if they have to pick, they would rather sell 10 watches for $100,000 than try and sell 100 watches for $10,000. So that's kind of what I think is also the case here. It's a lower dollar brand compared to their other stuff. In order for it to perform well, they would have to really move a lot more units. And then the price point, again, I mentioned Longines, I mentioned some stuff from Tudor, but we have to remember like Seiko, Citizen, they're playing in this price point, like the Citizen line and a number of the Seikos. Grand Seiko, some of their quartz stuff is going to be in competition with Baume Mercier. Micro brands, Christopher Ward's got watches at this price point now. Then there are brands like Ferrer and Baltic that are well under it. And are we getting enough extra finishing from a Baume Mercier to go ahead and jump into that price point? And I think even though they've got like I think they have an in-house movement, Baume Mercier, from again, quick AI data analysis told me they have a movement with a 120-hour power reserve. So and some other really cool specs, but do a lot of people buy up a model for the movement specs? I'd say obviously not, given what else is being successful that doesn't meet any of that particular criteria. And I think the final thing is tied to that movement aspect is I've loaded up, I sorted by men's watches, but the watches of Baume Mercier. So I showed you this earlier image from the Hodinkee article where, I said, this is like what a lot of the Baume Mercier watches look like. It's not very exciting, is it? It's perfectly handsome. It's perfectly nice, and it's perfectly ununique or unoriginal, maybe would be a better way to describe it. So I show you this and these watches, and you can see the price points of, maybe I'll zoom it a little bit so it's easier for those of you on phones to read. But again, we got quartz watches with a generic dressy look for just under $1,000. We've got some stuff where, all right, the stuff with the horses is kind of fun, but the rest of the watch looks pretty staid. Um, they've got a few things that are kind of interesting, but here we go, a bunch of Rivieras, which feel to me like stuff I can get out of the Citizen catalog, or maybe I should get a Astron from Seiko. You see what I mean? Like everything kind of looks like something else. Not straight up homaging or cloning or anything like that, just generic. Kind of like what I know some people have said what happened with Fossil. Not the whole Fossil group, but just Fossil watches themselves. Some people said they used to be fun, and you look at most of their catalog now, and it just feels staid, insipid, just okay. Like, all right, we know these designs work. Other people have done them. We'll have our own version of them. But now we're asking people to pay $5,000, $3,000, $1,500. So why would you? Like, okay, you want to get a Clifton for $5,400, which looks like a JLC Master Control. We're getting close to where you could buy a used JLC Master Control from the same group, and probably in precious metal for that matter, and maybe match this price in steel. I'm not sure. I know I'm talking out of turn, but nothing here feels special to me, and I suspect that's an issue. And then when you see stuff where they're actually doing their own version of gold watches and stuff, why? Like, I don't think there's any excitement for this brand. So why would Richemont want to keep it? Anyway, so that's my kind of ramble of what I think's going on with Baume Mercier, but and why Richemont was like, let's just get out of it. It doesn't fit their strategy of moving up market. The name just doesn't, it's an old name, but it doesn't have the cachet to move it. If you're going to stay loyal to this price point, it's a tough price point to compete in. I think they're like, it just doesn't fit the rest of the group's strategy, and that's why they're dumping it. That's my thought. But okay, so let me see what you guys are saying. Oh my gosh, there's a whole ton of comments. Let's see. The Ben 10, aforementioned Ben 10. Good morning. What's on your wrists? So I'm sure the people in the chat have been answering that. Today, I noted it earlier on. I guess I'll zoom in briefly. I don't usually do a bunch with wrist checks, but this is my Moser Pioneer, which had absolutely nothing to do with anything today. I simply wore it because it is cold outside, and I wanted to, in case it's like I wasn't going to strap this on top of the hoodie, but I was like, whatever. So I got it out. Okay, so we have some comments here of the discussion. Let's see. Lots of people talking about watches that they're wearing. John has a Chopard. Oh, that's a brand I've wanted to get into. I will not say that name right. I'll try though. Mille Miglia. I'm not sure I said the M right for that matter. But Chopard, very interesting brand. Sorry, as an aside, just and Wristful's in a similar boat. Chopard, very, very, very cool. I keep telling myself I will get one someday, but I keep not doing it. All right, so let's see. I don't think there were a whole lot of comments on what was going on with Baume Mercier. Here's one from Al. What are the excuse me, losing my voice there. What are the odds the new B&M owner will drastically cull the catalog and move the brand further up market? That's yes, interesting idea. I'm going to say relatively. I was going to say relatively low, but now I want to hedge because I don't want to be wrong. But of course, I'm just guessing, so I probably will be wrong. Here's my thinking. My initial guess, without knowing anything about this Damiani group, which I am in the background, you hear my keyboard, I'm trying to look up something about, is I think they will cull the catalog down because there are a lot of SKUs that Baume Mercier has. I don't think they can move it up market. There's nothing to move right now. Like the name is, I'm going to use snarky terms. So I'm doing this for hyperbole. I want to make it clear. it's a dead name, it's a dead brand, nobody cares. So you can't move it up market because it's a corpse. There's nothing to it. Nobody, if, and the reason why I don't think they'll move it up market, aside from all that sort of snarkiness, is if that was seen as a viable strategy, Richemont would have tried it. But instead, Richemont dumped it. Now, maybe this group, Damiani, which is, again, it's kind of like a Cartier from near I'm finding. It's known just for jewelry. Like maybe it fits a strategy with their portfolio, like looking at some of this stuff that they've got and the prices that they've got listed here. And I don't know anything about jewelry, but maybe their thought is, this might, having a watch brand that they can really lean on the legacy of, which Baume Mercier has a long legacy, that they would be able to tie it in with, inside their boutiques. Like what watches do they currently have? I have no idea. Are they branded as Damiani? I don't know. Let's find out. Yes. So they've got this stuff. Now, my first thought is whoever you give this to, her wrist will immediately bleed the moment she touches this. But maybe, oh my God. Oh my. All right. I'm going to rephrase my strategy, Al. I think they wanted Baume Mercier, so they had watches that were actually nice to look at. Look at this. They need some help. And the generic of generic Baume Mercier is a way better play than whatever this is. Whatever this is. This reminds me of what was like the Last of Us, like viral growths on things. I didn't play that game, but this feels very Mutant Plague sort of stuff. Maybe a thing you would see a watch in Fallout. I don't know. This doesn't look safe. Like I have health concerns looking at these watches, not to mention the price concerns that this one, which looks like the same leather strap that came with my Vostok at $30,000. I get it. The strap isn't the 30,000, but still, like they need help. So this is my new theory that they bought the group not to move it up market, but to move them into something that would actually sell. So I think that's the idea there. But I don't think they can move Baume Mercier up market successfully because Richemont would have been the best to attempt it. That being said, Richemont might very well have said, given that they've got JLC, IWC, Vacheron, Cartier, why bother? Like, just dump it at this point. What? You've already moved all your other brands up market. Like, they've been really trying with JLC. Obviously, Vacheron was already up market. Cartier, depending on the product, they really occupy a massive span. Richemont doesn't need a Baume Mercier. I think it's just a lodestone to them. So they might as well ditch it. And I think that's why there's been rumors like LVMH ditching Zenith, because it's like, well, the sales, they make cool stuff, but the sales aren't there. And at some point, it's like, well, I got other brands. Why bother worrying about one we can't move? This was what was going on, right? With many of us, myself at least, talking about why doesn't Swatch Group let Breguet go until the last year when they finally showed Breguet was doing stuff. But it just felt like it's your crown jewel and you do nothing with it. It just turns out the same fuddy-duddy looking stuff, and it's beautifully made and nobody wants it. And you buy it secondhand for 50% off. And it's like, now that they're doing something with it, makes sense. I think maybe with Baume Mercier, they were like, let's try with an in-house movement. And it still didn't move the watches. And they're like, we've dumped enough R&D into that. But anyway, this stuff, as dull as it is, as much as it looks like stuff from other companies, it looks way better than all of this. Granted, I'm not really into bejeweled watches, but guys, come on. I mean, I guess the rose gold one here, or they call it, I guess the watch line is called Mimosa. So full pave pink gold. This would be the one I would pick. And the reason is I think it hides blood the best. I mean, we look at that. It looks like it would cloak when you cut yourself open, that you cloak. It's like, it doesn't, I don't know. This, guys, here's a little video of it. I've muted my computer so you won't hear it. There you go. You can see there's plenty of places to cut yourself trying to get this, just grabbing it in the morning. So get the pink one. If you're going to buy this, get the pink one to hide the blood, because you're not going to want to wash this every time. I mean, it probably has only, I'm going to say 30 meters of water resistance, but it might only be 10. I'm not sure. What is this? 14 carats worth of diamonds. Guys, there's such a thing as too many diamonds. And it's the moment they become growths. It's too many. Like, it's too many. All right. Ristful says B&M is cool, but it is not a well-known brand. Yeah, and maybe Damiani will be able to fix that. I don't know. Al says these need to come with band-aids. Yes, that probably it might need a full-on tourniquet kit. I'm not sure. John said, I had a 1970s B&M 18-karat tiger eye dress watch. Stupidly sold it years ago. And yes, I kick myself daily. Tiger's eye looks really cool and watches. Very, very cool. I've never had one. Probably too cool for me, but definitely. Ristful goes, looks like the virus G-Shock. I forgot about the virus G-Shock. those were interesting. A bold move, Cotton, as those of us from dodgeball days would say. Koji, thank you for being a club member, by the way. An aura of timeless allure. Yeah, that screams timeless. Those 30 meters of blood resistance. That's a Red Cross approved watch, goes Ristful. So John says, I would not be surprised if Baume Mercier closed down in the future, just like Danielle Jean Richard, which I wasn't even familiar with. No, I wouldn't be surprised either. I don't know if there's, we've seen brands survive a lot of things. I don't know. If someone really passionate were to, and I'm not saying Damiani, it won't be, all jokes aside about their bloodletting watches. Like maybe they have someone, or maybe there are people with B&M that are coming over that they think, well, like they'll really know watches. It'll be a serious thing. And they really want to get into the space. But I'm just sort of thinking about how, like when Carrying Group decided, you know what, watches just aren't worth it. They had Ulysse Nardin and Gerard Perregaux, and those were the only watch brands, and they dumped them at the same time. And they basically those two brands went independent at that point, and they're still operating. So just one of those things. So there might be a chance for B&M, even if Damiani doesn't work it out. But again, it's tough. Like, because Gerard Perregaux, I know there are I'm not big into Gerard Perregaux, but I know a lot of people who love the Laureato, absolutely love it, think it's better than the Royal Oak. And so there's a demand there. And then, well, I've never had one. Ulysse Nardin and the Freak and stuff, like really cool tech, really cool efforts that they've done. So they had stuff that I think it's Baume Mercier doesn't really have going for them currently. Koji asks me, these are Bronco colors you're wearing, ascribing the horror. Yes, I guess we could say yes, but not. No, so Syracuse is only orange, but orange is a lot. Actually, I wore an orange hoodie. I put it in the wash from yesterday because it's so cold here. So a lot of times with Syracuse swag, it's blue with orange because blue's an easier color to wear, I guess. So anyway, this was the hoodie that I grabbed next because the other ones are a pullover and this is a zipper one. And the pullover ones, the hoods are too big and I can't sit right and they feel weird. So I like this one. It's comfortable. But I have KU ones also. I just didn't grab the KU one out today. So, and yes, Ilmarl goes diamond disease. Yes, very diamond disease. Okay, well, that's everything I had that I wanted to talk about. So I will end this stream. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Hope you thought it was interesting. Thanks for contributing all your thoughts on the new Seafarer. I keep going like, I want to call it the Wayfarer, but it's about water, so it's the Seafarer. Thanks for talking about that one. I thought that was my favorite, but also I enjoyed the discussion regarding the Seamaster for the upcoming Winter Olympics. And of course, I loved learning that you can't actually put too many diamonds. I already thought you could put too many diamonds on a watch, but I didn't know that it could become dangerous. And now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it. And hopefully you can't unsee it either, because if I have to suffer, why shouldn't you all suffer? But that's it for this live stream. Thanks for tuning in. I will plan to be back next Saturday with some other topic, whatever I end up coming up with. And that's pretty much it. So hope you all have a really good weekend. Take care, everybody.